Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with Jeff Ferrato from SI for Coach.
Hey, Coach, can you just talk about the ways you expect Coyne to be a better player this year? What if his responsibilities are any different, and just how you see him evolving, not only as a player, but perhaps as a leader on your defense?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's Coyne and I were actually discussing his development and where he was a year ago at this time, more in regards to fall camp. But the strides that he has made football-wise, where he's at in the locker room has been nothing but remarkable. His physical maturation as well. So really for what we expect Coyne, there's gonna be a lot of the same things we ask him to do. We moved him around quite a bit on the field, and just the leadership and the continued production is I think where he's going to continue to develop. And you just wish you had somebody that's developed that much for a little bit longer.
And how does that leadership quality manifest itself with him? How do you see that?
It's the way he's studying, and it's the way a lot of these guys, from the Cam Bynums to the Hicks to, the Coynes and the people that have preceded them. When I got here, it was Jordan Kanashik, so this has been a strong group of guys that defensively enjoy football. They study and they really pour themselves into it.
Thank you. If I can ask you a follow-up on a different topic, Ron Rivera and his wife today made a nice donation to the Cal softball program and their facility they're rebuilding. I wondered, do you know Ron at all? Did you ever come across him during your playing days, Tennessee? Have you ever met him, or do you know him at all?
I don't know. I'm obviously I know of Ron, but I have not personally spent time with him. Okay.
I wonder if you had any. Were you aware of what he did today?
I have not. No.
Okay.
I haven't been on Twitter. I've been in defensive meetings this morning and watching film.
You got strange priorities.
I know.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we'll move on to Trace Travers.
First and foremost, Coach, that is a fantastic mustache. I am very jealous.
It's funny. I turned the Zoom on and I barely even recognized it, because usually you have the mask on. So anytime you use the restroom or go anywhere else, you have the mask on. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. To start, though, you guys are either 10 or 11 practices in now. This is about the time when you'd be getting to more contact drills like two huddle, fastball, all that stuff. How have you guys done in some of those drills when you've had, as big of a layoff as you have from Pats?
We've had our second installment of two huddle yesterday. We've had fastball several times. So that is, you're right on with kind of where we're at physically. The spirit and the intensity in both two huddles were really good. Yesterday, we had better execution, I think, on both sides, and we're continuing to practice more favorably together. Staying up. It's some of the early energy guys are grabbing each other, falling down. So a big point of emphasis for Coach Wilcox has been how we take care of each other and how we continue to practice at a high level.
And Coach Wilcox has talked about the guys next to Coyne and Evan Tattersall and Mo Iasefa standing out. What have those two guys done during these last few days of full pads?
Well, both Evan and Muello, they both run really well. And Evan has been somebody that's been developing in the program, for 3 years. And, when you get a young man that enjoys football, that is investing in his body and investing in that time of development, then you get the opportunities to see that come to fruition. So Tat's playing well right now. He runs well, and it's exciting to see him get the opportunities to go out there and show what he's done for the last, few years. And Muello got here in January. We had a brief stint with him for our spring ball before things got shut down. But, I think 11 practices in now, maybe we're about 15 for total for him. He's made really good progress athletically. He runs well. You see him playing really sideline to sideline, and as he continues to get more comfortable with the physical nature inside, he's going to be a very good player for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Rusty Simmons from the San Francisco Chronicle.
Coach Cam told us that as he works back in, he's finally getting into practices with you guys. On the field with you, how's he looked so far?
He's been very similar to what we've all known and loved watching. He's a talented player. He understands technique, and I think what he does as well as anybody is he shows leadership, and he shows the whole defense the expectation of practice.
He's one of those guys who's had a chance to, if he wanted to go to the NFL draft several times now. Is there anything left that he needs to put on tape? Is there anything that would help him with those evaluators going forward?
I think there's always something you can help yourself with, and for a guy that plays on the outside part of the field, it's continuing to, develop the skills of finishing plays. And I think that's paramount in the NFL is, guys can cover, but the ability to be able to finish plays consistently without penalties, finish tackles, finish when the ball's in the air. I think that's something that evaluators, those are things that separate defensive backs from others, in my opinion.
And you talked about the way he leads, the way that he works. He was a guy that, as he was kind of getting back into the process, was doing his own workouts at Berkeley High before he was allowed into practices. Can you think of guys that you would be more comfortable with going off and doing their own thing than Cam?
No, not really. It's, it takes a unique personality to work out by yourself. I think all of us understand that to go out and exercise and to take care of your body and develop yourself by yourself is a unique, and you have to be very, very strong mentally to get that same amount of work that you would with others or with, a Coach Becton or, some kind of personal trainer holding you accountable. But it doesn't surprise me. Cam's come back and he looks good, and doesn't surprise me one bit that he took care of himself and worked his butt off.
Right on. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to David Bush from Bear Insider.
Morning, Coach. First of all, is Nick Alfton taking any snaps at linebacker?
He's spending a lot of time with the offense right now.
Okay. Is he doing any defense at all?
Well, positional stuff, that's for Coach Wilcox, but right now he's spending most of his time on tight end.
Okay. And just your young secondary, communication is so important. Through these last few drills, how has that worked out? How are they doing?
They're getting more comfortable, but David, you're right. It's, half the battle is communicating to the other guys on the defense what techniques they're playing. And, we stress nonverbal, because as the coaches, it's hard for us to know what techniques we're even coaching if we can't see what they're doing on film. And then as they get better at communicating, they're more confident in what they're saying. So early on with some of the more inexperienced players, they're very hesitant to over communicate because they don't want to be wrong, just like all of us. Nobody wants to be wrong. So part of that is coaching up the confidence in it's okay to be wrong, okay, but be vocal. And as long as we're all on the same page, we have an opportunity to have a successful play. So those guys are coming along. I think Coach Yates is doing a real nice job with them. And those guys are going to be needed. Isaiah Young and Trey Pastor and, Craig has only been here a year. So those guys are getting some opportunities and they're making the most of them.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to Jake Curtis from SI. Jake?
Yeah, just based on hints, it sounds like Gamble and Iosofa And one of the defensive linemen are likely the freshmen most likely to see significant time. Is that right, or which ones figure the most?
Right now, the way the rep count, I was actually looking at the rep count, today is we're really doing a good job of spreading it all out. And until we get a little bit closer to, the week of preparation, there's some young guys, really all the young guys have shown flashes. What we're looking for now is consistent flashes, doing things the right way, understanding things, what we need them to do mentally. And then, are they mature enough emotionally come out and prepare and practice the way the team needs them to practice to put them in. But I think Ethan Saunders has done some really good things. Stanley McKenzie's done good things. Colin Gamble, Isaiah, Trey Pastor, Muello, they've all had their flashes. And I think we're at practice 12 today. So all those guys have shown very, very encouraging traits on why we recruited them. But we still have a long way to go. So they need to continue to bring the effort, bring the mental intensity, and to see if they have the maturity and the staying power of doing this for longer than 11 practices.
Jake, I think you're on mute.
Safe to say that just based on need that one of the freshmen that will get some playing time will be on the defensive line.
Yeah, I think there's going to be freshmen playing at all levels of our defense this season.
Okay, Jake, you good? Okay, we'll move on to Jasper Sundin.
good.
Jasper Sundin from the Daily Cal.
Hey, Coach. So like you said, you guys have a larger amount of practices under your belt, a couple weeks. Is there anyone you feel like has maybe made a lot of improvements, stood out to you just based on how far they've come in just the last couple weeks?
No one that just jumps out. The typical inexperienced players, their maturity and their acceleration of, it goes from, no practices to 11 practices. So you do see some growth, but, there's also guys, Braxton Croto, tough, hard-nosed player. And sometimes it's, those mid veterans, that've been here and they've been with us. But, not, they don't have years of experience under their belt, but they're not newcomers really anymore. But, Brax is a guy that comes off as he's worked really hard in the weight room. Football is very important to him. And, he's another one of those guys that epitomizes what Coach Wilcox and what this program is recruiting, and, what we're looking for our guys in terms of once they get here to how they develop and how they improve themselves.
Okay. Move on back to Rusty Simmons from the Chronicle.
Yeah, Coach, when we were talking about tackling the other day, you talked about helping the players find their buddy, whether that's somebody else coming in to help with the tackle or the sideline, so on and so forth. Will you walk me through some of that kind of football 101 of what a buddy means?
Yeah, a buddy, could come from a lot of different spaces, on the field. So what we have done is we drill, for a few examples, a vice tackle that you understand, where your buddy's at before the ball is snapped, based on some route combinations, when it's 2x2 and the middle of the field is closed and you get, T on a check down, the two hook defenders are going to be your vice players. So, those route concepts, you're going to have a left shoulder and a right shoulder player. And then we also do some what we call buddy tackle that, we start a play and then they have to identify, where the route and where the ball carrier ends up. And those right shoulder, left shoulders can change as soon as they end up profiled on the ball. And then there's also times that we do what we call a half line tackle leverage drill. And we get 3 open receivers and a back, and we let the route distribution happen. And then you have to understand, if I'm the flat defender, for instance, and I get some kind of horizontal route from number 2, 3, or 4, I'm going to be aggressive. And when that ball that ball carrier ends up outside the numbers or he stays inside the numbers. So, once he starts traveling horizontally and he's going to make a run in the alley between the numbers and the sidelines, the buddy now has become the flat defender's, his second lever player. If he on the flat defender and that horizontal route comes in and he stems me vertically and keeps that ball inside the numbers, then he's going to transition from his buddy tackle on the sidelines to his buddy tackle coming from a strong hook who's coming from inside leverage. So those are kind of some of the examples that we're talking about of sometimes you do know and we reinforce that. Sometimes you don't know and you have to make some fast decisions. And then sometimes you have to make the decision based on where the ball carrier declares with the football.
And are those things you rep both in meeting rooms and on the field in drills?
Yes, it is on both of them. So what we try to do in terms of anything that we are trying to emphasize, we're trying to capture in the meeting room, film review, and then the physical part of walkthrough and then executing it on the field. We don't have the luxury of leaving any learner behind. So we have to try to do the very best we capture in all the different learning styles that we have. And then, once they understand it, then there's a significant amount of the film review is the reinforcement of what's been taught, what's been understood, and then continue to emphasize.
Do you know when you first heard it referred to as buddy? I've heard knowing where your help is and things like that, and different terminology. I think buddy is new to me, but that's just because I probably know about a quarter of what you know. But
I don't know, Rusty. That's a great question. That's the vernacular we use around here. And I honestly don't know where some of the originations start. I don't know how long I've said that. I've really never even considered it, but to me, I guess I try to communicate in ways that it makes sense, and the kids seem to understand when I say you got to find your buddy. That seemed to resonate with them.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, Trace Travers from Rivals.
Yeah. When we talked to you last time, you talked about using the nickel a lot. You said over half the time last year, and you've talked previously about the star position maybe limiting some of what you can integrate with regard to that position. How much have you been able to integrate with the star position when it's kind of that hybrid nickel safety linebacker deal?
Yeah, that's been challenging to get as much in as the spring ball menu would have allowed us, for a variety of reasons. But the nickel position has been a very productive position for us. And Josh has played in there. So there's a very veteran presence that has played some great football for us in there. And it kind of leaves our entire playbook open. We have a lot of opportunities to get to some of the simulated pressures that we like, and some of the coverage concepts, middle open and middle close, that I think make the defense challenging.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, I have time for just a couple more of Jackson Moore for 24/7.
Yes, Coach, we recently learned about Curley's injury. Can you update us on how the depth is coming along behind Braxton and Cam?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. The announcement of Curley's injury. He had flashed, some things early in camp, so we empathize with him, and I know he's going to battle back and get back to helping us. But Braxton, Cam, right now they're taking a significant workload of what we're asking them to do. Oren Patu and Miles Jernigan, those guys are getting increased reps at playing some of that F and B, some of the field and the boundary defensive ends. So those guys are getting a significant amount of work. And then, it's, when there's injuries, you're gonna have to start, cross-training some different people. So there'll be even some bigger guys getting some opportunities to cross-train as a backup, a 2 or maybe even a 3, given, what we're trying to be prepared for in the event of an unfortunate event, to have enough guys that we can continue to play at a high level and have the defensive system we want to be able to play.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we'll have Rusty Simmons, and then if anybody else has one, please put it in the chat now. But right now, Rusty's the last one in the queue, so go ahead, Rusty.
Coach, I was going to ask about Washington's quarterbacks. I know that they haven't made any announcements, and you guys probably haven't even turned into Washington prep yet. But I'm sure there's, on top of preparing for a game, there's some personal interest. How close are you paying attention to what's going on with Washington's quarterbacks and with Jacob?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying, I'm pretty interested in it for my work life and my personal life. So got a good beat on trying to follow what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't, my Jacob is my brother's son. So when we do talk, that's off limits. So if football is off limits, when I talk to my brother, the conversations are usually pretty short. So, as a family member, obviously I wish him, that he reaches his goals of what he set out to do there, collegiately and academically. So I'm rooting for him because I love him, and I'm interested in who's going to play. So when the Cal Bears play him, we play our best football and give our team an opportunity to win.
In game ones, especially, a lot of times halftime adjustments mean everything because everything's new. How have you felt about, over the years that you've been at Cal, how the team has adjusted at halftime?
Well, I don't think it's going to be halftime adjustments. I just think it's going to be first quarter, second quarter adjustments. This is as unique of a preparation that I've ever been a part of. I mean, there's no spring ball. There's no media there. There's nothing. So I'm watching film from, goodness gracious, the years back that we've gone to try to get a beat of what might happen or what could happen. I mean, it is the width and the breadth of what we're watching right now and what's in our system is pretty extensive. So we're prepared for a lot of different scenarios. Fortunately, we feel very comfortable with understanding who their skill players are and have an idea of the matchups they present in ways that they can be used. So we're going to have to play some good old-fashioned rules football and kind of let this thing unfold and be ready to adjust after the first series, or so that's something that we're prepared for. Historically, I think the staff has done a fantastic job of making adjustments. I think you got to be very mindful of how fast you make adjustments. I think that's something that is probably a little bit overstated. You put in plans for a reason. When you have an extensive film study or a full season to study off of, I think you got to be mindful of you're not trying to chase the pen just because they did something that's new, that creates problems. There's a lot of different variables on how they're going to get back to it, what kind of spacing you choose to play in the run game. Do you want to play odd spacing? Do you want to play even spacing? Are you going to put base out there, nickel out there? What are the matchups? What are the sub matchups that you're looking for? I think you also got to be mindful of, you got to know yourself. When you run nickel out there, you have to understand what you have shown on film. You have to understand what people have gone after. You have to understand, some of your own weaknesses and some of your own tendencies. So, so I think that's where the halftime adjustments are calculated, efficient, and never more than the players are capable. It's not about a coach being smarter than the other coaches. It's about your players playing confident and being able to do what you ask them to do.
Great stuff. Thank you.
All right, guys. Seeing no other questions in the chat, we'll let Coach go. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Pete.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.